I'm sure most of the people in my audience, regular working people in my audience, if you've been to the grocery store lately, you know that something just is not right. The cost of everything really has gone up dramatically. But when it comes to food, it's one of the most hard hitting because you literally need it to survive. There is no, oh, I mean, of course you can skip meals, but that's not how anybody should live, and that's not how anybody wants to live. Food is something that everybody needs to buy to survive. Food, electricity, gas, and things like that. These are necessities. So when the price is just going up completely out of control and at historic rates, on, like I said, necessities like food, it is hard to miss. And I remember, like, when we were in the thick of it with COVID, a lot of the increase in the price, they were trying to spin it as, oh, it's the supply chain issues. We have no control over it, man. This is what happens with a pandemic. And that narrative wore very thin very quickly. Because it seemed like, and it was later proven, that corporations are just raising prices so that they can make more money. And sure, were there supply chain issues that made it difficult to get certain products, items? Yes, definitely. But that wasn't enough to justify what we were seeing with the prices. I have a graphic for you. This is from Bloomberg News, and they wrote an article about inflation and how much the price of food has increased just compared to last year. And so I'm going to show you that graphic. And they use data from, I think it's the Department of Labor and Statistics. And this is what they did was look at what's called the Consumer Price Index. So every year or every quarter, economists, they have this thing that's called this basket of goods, like everyday necessities that people have to buy. And they have these same items. They basically like do an imaginary like grocery trip, and they calculate what the price would be if you buy these same items this quarter, next quarter, this year, next year, and they compare prices like that to. That's how they judge increases in consumer goods and food and stuff like that. And I started the segment mentioning the narrative around the supply chain, because if you were to ask regular people what is the cause of the this increase in price, they would probably, one of their first guesses would be the supply chain, because that's just what they keep hearing about. But like I said, this data is showing an increase in the price from last year to this year. And we're looking at historic prices. That we're looking at historic prices and historic price increases that are not justified by any sort of supply chain issue, especially considering last year things were getting back to normal, and whatever magical supply chain issues that were running the economy, they were being fixed in the moment. So we should not be seeing increases like this if what was driving prices was actually supply chain issues, and not being able to unload shipment and things like that. So let me show you the graphic. All right. So if you look at the first item, so cereal, it goes. Let me just explain how the chart is laid out. So you have the category of the food. The next to that, you have the annual increase. So how much? What's the percentage that the food in that category increased from this time last year to right now? And then right next to that, you have this column right here, and it says the largest since. So it'd be basically the largest increase in that category since whenever the data is there. So let me start with the first category, cereal, and this is one of the biggest categories of increase just from over last year. 16.6% increase in the price of cereal from last year to this time this year to right now. This is the largest increase ever. Eggs, 38% increase in the price of eggs, and this is something that I noticed myself because many people who've watched the show for a while, you know that I was homeless. I wasn't really able to cook for a little while, and I cook all the time, and I use eggs a lot. And so when I started cooking again, and I went to the store, like doing buying the regular things that I would buy at the store, like eggs, I'm over here looking at the prices like, God damn. And yes, the price of eggs have increased 38% since last year. Let me see another big one that I wanted to. Baby food. Baby food has increased 15%. Biggest increase ever. So I just wanted to show you all that list because, and of course, many of you, like I mentioned, you go into the grocery store and you're seeing these increases every week. So you know what I'm talking about. I just wanted to have the numbers there to provide some context, some scale to you. So just so that you know you're not crazy when you go to the grocery store and you say, this shit wasn't even this price a month ago, 2 months ago, damn near, definitely not last year. It's gone up considerably since then, and you're not crazy. And so the next point that I want to talk about is what is driving this price increase in food. Because this has a real impact in regular people's lives. Like, people are already living paycheck to paycheck. People are already living in wage slavery here in the United States, working 40, 50, 60 hours a week. People doing that, no days off, no vacation days, working 2-3 jobs. It's already, the living standards in this country are already bad. So then when you add into the mix, the price of food is just astronomical. That puts a real squeeze on people, and it makes it hard to just exist. So it is important to realize or to understand what's driving this cost, so we know what the problem is and who to blame, and hopefully come up with a plan on how to fix it. So, like I said, a lot of people try to, I don't know, I wouldn't say, there's a lot of unnecessary confusion around this and some people try to add in a bunch of shit. Like I said, it's the I was just saying this over the so it's a supply chain. It's actually inflation. Oh, the government spending is causing this inflation, and that's why prices are going up. So they spent some money allegedly on people, and they really didn't. It was just another giant corporate bailout. But people are trying to say, oh, they spent some money on people during COVID, and that's the reason why prices are going through the roof, and all these other things. And it's just, it makes it just really unnecessary. And when the root of the problem, the source of the problem, is staring everybody in the face, and it feels like nobody wants to admit it. The reason why the prices are this high, it's not an act of God. It's not because some magical inflation fairy came around and said, okay, the government gave people a $1,200 check, now let me raise the price of eggs 38%. Like, that's not what happened. Plain and simple, corporations are charging more for the product. People are paying more, and the executives are running out the back door with all the money. So it's really just them doing what they're doing and trying to increase corporate profits. That's really what all of this comes down to. And let me show you the next graphic that explains this, or not, but just gives you some important context. So this is from an article in Forbes that was highlighting how corporate profits was really driving the increase in the price of food. So Tyson, one of the quote big four meat and poultry conglomerates, who's and this is me reading from them. This is just really statistics that they gathered and put in this article. That's the only reason I'm really showing it to you. But it says Tyson, one of the big four meat and poultry conglomerates, whose price increases have been scrutinized by the Biden administration, posted over $1 billion in corporate profit in the first quarter of 2022, up 48% from previous year. So $1 billion in profit Tyson produced in just the first quarter of this year, up 48% from last year. Gee, I wonder, why could it be the price of meat is through the fucking roof? Could it be one of the largest producers and meat packers in the country is driving up prices and putting more money in their pocket? Could that possibly be? No, it has to be the $1,200 checks from 2020. Or it has to be, that's what's causing the inflation. It has to be some supply chain issue from 2 years ago. That's the reason why we're seeing historic increases in price. It can't be that they're seeing historic profits and that's what's driving the increase in prices. No. Because here in the United States, corporate power and corporate corporations taking advantage of people. Even though Occam's razor shows that's usually what the problem is, the overwhelming majority of the time, we're not allowed to acknowledge that here in the United States. It always has to be everything else, including just individual responsibility. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. If you can't afford to pay for 2 times as much for on your grocery trip as you did 2 years ago, well, that's on you, buddy. That's on you. And there was something else in this graphic that I wanted to share with you. Oh, so this one's about Amazon. Amazon increased net income by $12 billion and allocated $10 billion to stock buybacks. So that was from 2021. So Amazon, and I mentioned Amazon because a lot of people buy their groceries, have them online through Amazon and have them delivered. So they're relevant in this conversation. And look what they did with the money. They're seeing record profits too, $12 billion in profits. And what they do with $10 billion of it, they used it to buy back stocks for the company and increase basically the pay for executives and the stockholders, the shareholders. So, and by the way, this has been mentioned before, but really corporate profits are really stolen wages. So these are wages that the workers owned, or this is money and revenue that the workers created working in these Amazon warehouses, but it's going to the executives, and in this giant scam to increase the amount of money that they're making, they took the $10 billion and used it to buy that back their own stocks, which just inflates the price of their stocks because, it looks like, oh wow, so people they have so much faith in Amazon that they bought millions of shares or thousands of shares, and so obviously the company must be doing good. And so every corporation does this. They do these stock buybacks, which used to be illegal until the corrupt politicians that they bought legalized it for this purpose. So it's just a scheme for them to recycle the money that they're stealing from you to multiply their earnings, to multiply the money that's in their pocket. That's what Amazon is doing with their record. When they're doing these record price increases, it's so that they can put even more money in their pocket. It's not because the price of goods are so expensive that they just have to cover the loss so that they can keep selling it to you. That is a lie. Anybody who is pushing that right now is telling you a lie. The reason why food is so expensive is because they're taking advantage of you, and they know the government is going to do anything about it because they bought and they own the government. And so I don't know how much worse this economic situation can get, because like I said, pre-pandemic, people were already on the edge. People were already living on the edge, paycheck to paycheck, barely a couple $100s for an emergency, no health care. People were already on the edge. And shit is getting worse. It seems to be getting worse exponentially. Because this whole segment, we're sitting here talking about the unprecedented increase in price of food, right? That's not the only thing people are dealing with at the moment. We're also dealing with unprecedented historic prices for gas, unprecedented historic increases in prices for rent. Orlando, nearest major city to me. The price of rent increase, watch this, 25%? 25%. Not over 10 years. Since last year. So that's like your landlord coming up to you. Yes, your lease is up in January, whatever. It's like your landlord coming up to you in December. So we're going to increase the rent for absolutely no discernible reason, and we're going to increase it by 25%. That's what they were doing. That's how much rent increased in Orlando. People are dealing with that. People are dealing with the food prices. People are dealing with the gas prices. All while wages aren't going up. How much more are people supposed to take? How much more are people supposed to take? And it's not like the government can't do anything about it. If they wanted to, this will always be a solution that I have to economic situations, economic problems and crises in the country. Because I've seen them do it already, so I know they damn sure can do it again. Okay, they gave everybody the $1,200 check. Why not cut people more stimulus checks? Why not? This price increase, it is not natural. This isn't of the consumers doing. they're not being reckless and don't know how to handle their money. It's corporations taking advantage of American citizens. And the government is supposed to step in to regulate that shit and get that shit under control. So we should be pressuring the government to do that and to provide relief at the same time. To cap these prices, to put a limit on these prices, and to subsidize them for regular people who can't afford this shit anymore. Because they'll subsidize big oil. They'll subsidize the shit out of big pharma. They'll put billions and billions of dollars into corporations to make sure that they will always stay afloat. What did they do during COVID? They promised they would dump $1 trillion a day into the stock market to make sure that companies didn't crash. So they need to be doing that. They need to have that type of urgency and investment into the American people, because these are unprecedented times. Unprecedented times with the price of food and everything else in this country. This is unlivable.